Good afternoon, this is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is, well, it's already a Mars night because the sun is down in a Venus hour, ascendant on 11 degrees Cancer, with Cancer in 28 degrees Aries in the 10th house. So the moon is ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. With Jupiter here in the 11th house. Okay, Mars is squaring Saturn. The midheaven is also ruled by Jupiter, just releasing from the conjunction with Neptune. Here, Venus on the 18th degree of Libra in the 4th house. And my topic today is how this segment of the current square we have between Mars and Saturn is actually touching on a conflict to do with Saturn, but when Saturn is direct, okay? Because when Saturn was retrograde, we had Mars in Scorpio, we had Mars in Libra, we had Mars in Virgo, which was opposing this Saturn. Okay, so we had this touch when Saturn was direct, and then retrograde, and then direct. And Saturn has to do in Pisces with refugee, the medical crisis, global, because viral things, both viruses and going viral, okay, so going global, and attempting to find structure or the reality check between Neptune and Saturn. And this is something that I do say here because Neptune represents also missing people, kidnapped people, Saturn, Neptune, okay, misfortune, homelessness, refugees, the sick, okay, so poverty, so the conjoining of sickness, poverty, addiction, stress, strife, loss, death, and all the jolly stuff, but also creativity. Okay, Pisces is like the cosmic water. It's also the oceans where everything blends. Okay, the sign before Aries, so before the head of the baby comes out, which is Aries, then we have Pisces, is the cosmic womb. And Saturn in this sign is Saturn is a very earthly, but also it's ruling the earth and it's ruling the air. So above and below, okay, within the realm of the earth, it's ruling what's above the nature, the world, the people, and also what's below. But the below even is high because it rules mountains. So Neptune is Neptune, Jupiter, that is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and Pisces itself, and to some extent also Sagittarius, they rule religious institutions, hospitals, drugs, refugees, ships, okay? So people going missing with ships, refugees going missing with ships, but it also rules going missing in the sense of to make something go missing. Okay, whether to kidnap or to eliminate or to leak, to both leak information and eliminate information. Something is going missing, then it's popping up. You think about throwing a bottle into the ocean. It's there, but it's missing. And then one day it can just pop out and we say, oh, there's a message in a bottle from, 800 years ago. And then we open the bottle and we see what's in there. We may or may not know how to interpret because it has been such a long time, Neptune. So and Saturn rules time. So, for example, the events that occurred when Saturn entered Pisces, okay, recent history, implosion of ships, of submarine, and everybody going and looking for the people in it, and the people are of high class, okay, hierarchy, big wealth. Is also Neptune. Neptune is liquidity. And also Pluto, yes, but also Neptune, in the form of liquidity, okay, liquid assets. And so the other case was another ship, but with refugees locked in on purpose, nobody looking for them, left to die on purpose when the ship drowns. Okay, so corruption. Then on the 7th of October, Mars, I believe, was still in Libra. Yes, was in Libra. And we had people being kidnapped. But there was something very interesting about the people kidnapped. And this is what sparked this conversation for me on a mundane level. Because now we just had another thing with refugees. By the way, even before that, we had and I'm trying to stick to Neptune related issues. Okay, we had refugees. Okay, very likely there are also missing people in Gaza, right? In Palestine. We had unidentified victims. Okay, the identification, trouble with identifying and victimhood, unfortunately, also Neptune. And we had quarrels around this. We literally had people ripping off the pictures of kidnapped Israeli children, and then kind of Israelis trying to put it in reverse motion. So it looks like they are hanging in a way to cope and hanging the picture instead of removing the picture. And the play with time that's supposed to change to give a new meaning to the same moving picture. Okay, it's very Saturn, Neptune, and the act of play with that, and the reversal of time. Okay, Saturn was retrograde at the time. Okay, the reversal of time. And now Saturn is moving direct. Today we had the first bit of kidnapped people being released. But there was something very interesting about this that sparked me to do this episode. First of all, I looked at the election. I've had a very intense argument with a friend, and actually about exactly the thing of the difference between more Neptunian, Piscean people and people that are not at all such oriented when they go through mental crisis and how it affects their ability to work and make a living and so on and so forth. And so we had a fierce argument, and I felt like we have been having this argument for a while now. But if in the past I lashed out dramatically, even ferociously, then this time I was doing it, but I was literally saying, listen, I don't do revenge. And I literally told her, speak to Saturn. And she is against astrology at all. She's like, you should not charge for it, you should not this, you should not that. Nobody will believe you even for free and so on. She was hurt by an astrologer, obviously, probably. But the thing is, that I literally said, turn to Saturn. And then I looked at Saturn, a video of Saturn Square, Mars actually natally, and I don't have the square natally, I have the conjunction, the white orb. And it helped me to release this tension. And so I nudged and I said, listen, this is what helped me to release it from you, because I was latching like a dog, attacking. And this is what helped me to release this, an astrology video. Speak to Saturn. Okay, if you do any financial violence against me because she works on the algorithm of exposure to posts, then I return to you the energy, and for you to alchemize it. And for the things that I said, I also do alchemizing of this energy, and I wish you good. Okay, and on life, I dealt with this very intense crisis, but with respect, with the maturation that Saturn requires me to. Okay, the person is obviously being actively financially violent towards me, and I choose, because I'm an astrologer, and I choose to believe in astrology. I choose to say, okay. And there was a great video by Astro D about Saturn saying the revenge is never yours. It's Christian spirit, but you don't have to be Christian to get the point. Okay, and if last time I was like feeling threatened, so I lashed completely out, and have Mars 22 degrees Scorpio, retrograded when it's both holding things, but when it lashes, it lashes and lashes and lashes. But this time I said, no, speak to Saturn. Speak to Saturn. You are doing criminal things against me. Speak to Saturn, my dear. And I tend to be ethical when I speak with people or when I offer my services and so on. That's it. Okay. And so on a mundane level, I saw that if the Saturn direct, the first Saturn, I believe it was the Saturn direct, or when Saturn was going retrograde, we had the refugees case where there was tremendous injustice. Now, amongst the refugees that were released, first of all, for every refugee that is Israeli, Israel was required to release 3 prisoners that are Palestinians, most of them with blue ID, so citizens of Israel. Okay, they're Israeli Palestinians, and they committed, either they committed terror or they were involved in terror. So 3 prisoners, and to receive every refugee. But there were also people who were employees from Thailand and the Philippines, because it was agriculture. And globally, in order to participate in the global economy, unfortunately, Israel too is reverting to hire people from countries that have this orientation of agriculture, and are very, very hardworking, perhaps not in the best interest. Perhaps it would be better that the working conditions would allow us to even if we don't hire locally, to at least be able to afford an Israeli employee without losing the market. Okay? Because if an Israeli can't do it, it's not the problem with the Israeli, it's the problem with the requirement of the global economy. But the thing is that those people, they were kidnapped along with the Israelis. They were working in the field and they were kidnapped. A lot of them slaughtered, a lot of them probably tortured, and all the atrocities, and to no fault of their own. They were caught up in the situation. It's completely unfair. And when they were released without asking for prisoners. Okay? So there was some sort of like, hey, this is fairness. Okay, we're not going to require anything that will make Israel not release these people eventually, although they were kept in captivity for 40 days. Okay, but also Israel bombed Gaza 40 days. Okay, it was this kind of power clash. It's like, are you going to return them? Are you going to this? Are you going to that? And so again, we are dealing with the crisis to do with refugees and to do with different type of kidnapped and missing people. And within this atrocity and within this conflict, there was this, hey, we are going to release those people without asking for anything, but they are going to be a part, they are going to be in equity, okay, with the number of Israelis. We're not just going to give them, they're not going to not hold back Israel kidnapped people that are sitting there. Just for no reason. They need to be released. Okay, so there was some sort of dealing with this crisis along missing people, kidnapped people, refugees, hostages, in a way that has more so the maturity. Not that there is anything good in keeping people in captivity, but you also have to pay. When the people of Gaza are dying, 1,500 people, not 1,500, 15,000 people dead. Okay, then you have to adjust your expectations accordingly. And in this situation, there was, and I'm not saying this is this or this is that, the result is very important to mention here, because we are not ascribing any kindness to anybody. Indeed, the crisis, the problem, this particular problem was dealt with some sort of, it's very difficult to say fairness because there is nothing fair about the entire situation, but there is some sort of different treatment towards those people that were kept there. It is different to, for example, the kidnapping of them. Okay, they are not even Israelis. They are working there. And I'm not going to even mention the atrocities. It's like it's even off topic for this episode. We're talking just about the kidnapped and the returning. So today was the first kind of beat of the returning of the people. And of course, to the cases where we saw refugees smuggled, locked to death. So the money was taken from refugees. They were smuggled. They were basically locked to die, to drown in the ship that was going from Africa to, I think, Italy. Okay, so now we are seeing that there is some attention to those refugees, those people that are caught up in the middle, that there is an actual effort to release them, and they're going to even hold back the people, the Israeli people that are inside, still kidnapped. And the reason being, this Saturn Square Mars, where Mars is a military action, is initiation, is also aggression, war, conflict, and Saturn, that is basically those people, those kidnapped people, that misfortune, okay? So the collision between, hey, we want to release them already, which is Mars' speed, we want to release them, we want to release all of them, and Saturn that says, wait, we kidnapped Thai people, we kidnapped Philippine people, you're going to get the same quantity of Philippine people, and you're going to see the same quantity of Israeli people. You say 50 people altogether, you're going to get 24 today, half Israeli, half not Israeli. Okay, is something here very particular, very orchestrated. There is some attention to this refugees question, to their identity question. Okay, we're going to require three prisoners of just committing war crimes, basically. This is why a lot of them were arrested. We don't know every case. And the prisoners that are released are also both women and the men prisoners. Okay, so there's a lot of equity both in the women and the men. There's the Thai people were men, and the Israeli children and women. And I have to say even more. At first, there was a requirement to have children and women first. And people shouted, do not separate the families. It's not that Israel is so kind with its women and children. Okay, there's domestic violence, there's just a lot of inequity, there's a lot of literal war crimes going even in time of peace of Israel to Israelis. Anybody, both man or woman, that had to separate from someone, let's say even in COVID, and had no place to stay, it was, even if there were no children involved, they knew. Those atrocities, okay? Leaving people to their death. And thus creating pressure and stress and increased domestic violence and even lethality amongst very stressed people financially, economically, and because of the COVID, the global, okay, crisis. And who will they address? They address Israel. Do they have connection to Schwab? No. And so here there was this equity, like you want some men released too, okay, but they were going to be from Thailand. They're going to be those workers. Okay, there was a lot of thought. It was also delayed. Okay, it was supposed to have been on, I think Wednesday. They said Thursday, and then they said Friday. And some of us did not believe. I even overheard a conversation of a person that I cannot. I don't know him, but I understand that there was identity there. That I better not reveal the uniform. And then he said, I believe we're going to be receiving 50 bodies. Okay, people didn't even believe they're going to meet people alive. So great attention when Mars is going on the third time, going direct, still in 0 degrees Pisces, Saturn, yes, and Mars is squaring it. So Mars is like, come on, release them already. Why are you messing with our psyche? What is this? What is this psychological work? This is Mars interpretation. It just came out of Scorpio. What is this psychological war? Well, Saturn is like, wait, there's something to fix here. You want men? Yes, they will be from Thailand. Okay, there's a lot of details around this. Who the identity of the refugees, for whom we're asking soldiers, for whom we are asking for war crime prisoners, for whom we are not, and even amongst the prisoners, many were women. Many women. There are women that have, a lot of them blue ID, but Palestinian women that committed certain crimes that got them arrested. Okay, so it's either involvement in terror or whatnot. And again, we don't know if they were falsely arrested or not, but some of them, yes, absolutely, they were planning to kill civilians. This is what you get arrested for, basically, is planning to kill civilians in one shape or another. This is why they would have put you in jail. Yes, then if there are more intricacies to that, there probably are. But the thing is, that we saw this collision between Mars, like, come on, release him already. What is this psychological? And Mars in Sagittarius is already freedom already, halas, freedom. With Saturn in Pisces is like, no, we need to reconsider every single detail, and this needs to be executed in a way that is in alignment with certain things that we consider. Whether it's the equity of women and men being released, what is the identity of the people for whom we are asking for prisoners released, for whom we are just releasing, and every single detail was thought to the letter, and there were delays. Okay, this also tells me that a lot of what took place here also did occur within this transit. Okay, if Mars-Saturn applying to squares, Mars and the Sun applying to square Saturn, okay, the details, the fine details, there were things that were, some things are orchestrated to the letter. Like a lot of us don't believe anything anymore. But the way that this took place is very much in alignment with what Saturn Mars does in real life. Okay, so and this is where there is great tension. People saying you are counting the minutes in social media, on Facebook, and then other people saying, come on, there are families waiting. Could you hold your feelings? Could you be okay? Even this was this Mars, come on, release them. We are counting the minutes. And the MarsSaturnian people is like, hey, think of the families. You are counting the minutes. Imagine the people who stare their child, hold your horses. Literally, people said, hold your emotions. Okay, what is Saturn Pisces? Hold your emotions. And so, just as the transit goes, we are having another touch on the Saturn issue of Pisces, which is worldwide crisis of health, war, missing people, kidnapped people, refugees. And they said it on Twitter again and again and again, and on Facebook again and again. I'm going to say it here again and again and again and again and again. Hospitals, religious institutions, okay, drugs, where drugs go, legal or not, medical welfare and welfare, homeless shelters, ships, and this is Neptune on Pisces. And Neptune is sextile in Pluto, so underground tunnels. Indeed, some were underground tunnels under hospitals, can be mosques, can be synagogues. Okay, as the world crisis begins to unfold, it can be many things. Yes, darling. And so if what rules kidnapped and missing people also rules spies and also rule places that are underground by the merit of the sextile to Pluto and are either in a ship, either or submarine even is very compatible with this, or a religious institution, a hospital. This is not only in Gaza, it's going to be worldwide, wherever we meet people that are kidnapped, that they are missing, or even illegal immigrants, okay? I remember when we were traveling by ship to Europe, we were in Greece, I don't remember years ago, and there were Albanians, illegal immigrants to Greece. So they were kept in a container and they were smuggled in a ship, and they opened this container and they saw these people and they were like, okay, they had to deport them or whatnot, but there were literally people hiding in this container, smuggled in a ship, okay? This is very Neptune. This is very Neptune. So worldwide, this is what rules both the people that we are looking for and the locations that we are looking. We have the juxtaposition of a hospital and a place where there are refugees and kidnapped people. Unfortunately, we also see it in mental institutions, which is also Neptune. And this is where people are forcibly held against their will because they don't agree with the hierarchy, or they know something, or they left violence, so they know how violence operates. And unfortunately, this is an inherent structural problem of the way these elements works. And this is a very big, important lesson for the entire world, because this crisis, there are many things are going to pop up. And I want to talk about another thing. I recorded video, then I deleted because there were some things that were not correct, and later I checked them. So recently in Netherlands, Mr. Geert Wilders won the elections for Netherlands with the PVV party, okay, Party of Freedom, Party for Freedom. Unlike you would think the name entails, it is a right-wing party. He is a right-wing, very strong right-wing. And I looked to see what was his political opinion. So, not surprisingly, I saw certain things both in the natal chart of the Netherlands to do with Aries, to do with Chiron in Aries. They have natal Chiron in Aries. They had Chiron return recently, and Chiron is still in Aries. And Geert has Jupiter in Aries. So it's the wound and the hope for having a solution around being self-sufficient, autonomous. Okay, and there's this question of Nexit, okay, whether to break free from Europe. There is the desire to do so. But in 2006, this man was having a very interesting agenda. And we need to look also in terms of the eclipse axis, because we are returning to this point. It's a nodal return. It's about to be a nodal return to this point, okay, to 2006. And he was calling to annex a part of Belgium. And I had an absolutely not astrological prediction. I was looking at the house crisis in the Netherlands, and I said this is a very small country, even before refugees, and they're probably going to go in the direction of colonialism. I did not predict how right I was, and the plans for this Mr. Wilders is to deport illegal work, not illegal, sorry, deport all people who are not Dutch and are working in the Netherlands. Have embargo on immigration, a serious embargo, like he's inspired by Israel in this. It's very interesting. His support to Israel, and then to abolish Islam, okay, and then to have these Dutch people basically fighting in a war, okay, because you won't just unite with the part of Belgium, you understand this, of course, right? It doesn't just happen, okay, it's an annexation, and this is basically an occupation. An invasion to Belgium militarily that Dutch people will have to take part in, probably mandatorily. So it's also very inspired by the IDF, which is mandatory army service. Okay, and on this Mars square Saturn, it was discovered. Okay, that he was elected. And another interesting is that detail from 2006 is that he wanted to replace the very basic and very first this kind of constitutional law that talks about the equity between men and women, or between genders, between genders in the Netherlands, to replace it with emphasizing this is a Christian country, there's a place for Jews here, and for what he called humanitarian people. Okay? But if this is not enough, then to educate people on the value of family. Okay? And this is something that we do know from right-wing regimes, a value of the traditional family. And he talks about Henk and Ingrid. And Henk and Ingrid is basically the Tom, Dick, and Harry, or the Mary and Jane. The Mary and Jane is more like linguistic, but the Tom, Dick, and Harry, because the average Joe, I think Tom, Dick, and Harry is very much what it is, because it means the common Dutch person. But he talks about the concept of Henk and Ingrid is basically the Dutch family that has 2 children and chooses, and then there's the lifestyle and what party do they vote. And he said now they vote for PVV. Okay, used to vote something else, now they vote for PVV. But Henk and Ingrid are supposed to now be a family in the traditional sense. The value of family. Okay, so we don't hear anymore about gender equity. It is missing, and if we go into war, so now we have this very intricate issue where we could have a war with Netherlands, the place where the International Court of Law is, The Hague. This is supposed to be a neutral country annexing another part of Belgium in war. So who are you going to litigate in the court of, for war crimes, if there will be, which probably there aren't any war, unfortunately. There's a need to litigate. How will you litigate Netherlands in The Hague if it commits war crimes? Okay, this is structural problems that we are being faced with, and I wanted to, and I will take advantage to credit Lada Duncheva. She made a post actually about the UN chart, the EU chart that was in November 1st, I don't remember the year, and had a moon in 24 degrees, I believe, Taurus, which is conjunct in Algol. It's also conjunct in Israeli sun, okay? And here is a very, very problematic thing. Lada continues and talks about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It is going to conjunct the moon for the EU chart, okay? And in my previous video, which I eventually deleted, I talked about this Nexit possibility, the break-in of Netherlands from Europe. European Union will probably be in the context of the entire European Union dissolving. I remember a lot of people talked about this, but Lada, so far I've seen, was the most specific from what I've seen, and literally it's the Jupiter-Uranus. And I told you, Jupiter-Uranus, it does begin on the 21st degree, but it continues on to the 22nd degree, which is, according to Nicola Stojanovic, the degree of to kill and be killed. Moon is the people. So a lot of murder of the people. This can be genocide, it can be democide, which is basically mass humanity murder, which is what is happening in Agenda 2030. And even unspoken literature, they say we don't need most of you here. So now, within this context of this Mars in Sagittarius already, okay, liberation, freedom, we have the PFF, okay, the Party of Freedom, which is the square Saturn, is a very traditional values of right wing. Taking people to war and making the country religious. Okay? Now, this is not a judgment of why and how and this and that. I still need to meditate about the difficulty of, let's say, you are a citizen of the world, which was to be Dutch, okay, because that paradox. And then there is a group of people that want to vote you out of your human rights. Okay? But then the response to this group of people is by marking them as, this is your religion, then we don't want the religion anymore. It's not the problem, it's not you, it's your religion. And as long as you follow this religion that is calling to basically slaughter all of us, then we are not agreeing with this religion, okay? However, what Wilders was talking about, Mr. Wilders was talking about, I'm Israeli, then my culture is a private name, even, I'm trying to adjust, was the value of family. Now you could say this is cultural, there is two words for family, there's family and there is gezin, which is the closest family. And there's a dissonance around the concept of family in Netherlands, that's for another episode. Speaking as half Dutch and as a person who's seen, like who's visited there and exactly regarding these things, I saw things. But the thing is that if we both omit equity between genders and educate for family and go to war and deport people because of their religion, even though the problem, okay, the problem of disrespect to human rights and atrocities against women, against this, the problem is real, okay? Is the problem Islam or is the problem a human rights thingy? And in any case, whatever the marker is, there is a problem that people want to buy vote, deprive us of human rights. But is Mr. Wilders not doing something along the lines of just this thing that he is preaching against? It's a big question, okay? It takes actual meditation and removing our PC, okay? If you try to understand anything about European culture, so that you need European politics, is you have to remove a lot of the PC things that exist in the American discourse. And even when Americans talk about removing PC, they don't mean it like European people mean it, okay? Is a different, it's a different sense of directness, but there is also a different sense of somewhat gaslighting, I have to admit, in other places. And so looking at things and saying, okay, this is my marker, but the problem where I need to have housing for my citizens, they're homeless. I need to have human rights. I need to have Dutch people feeling at home here. Okay, they're not feeling at home in their own country. And this has to do with human rights violation. And these people that are violating the human rights, they can get citizenship and they can get to vote. And we no longer have Netherlands in the sense of citizens of the world, in the sense of that even if we talk about Netherlands as human rights, citizens of the world, equity between genders, even if he was leftist, there is still an issue where people are transphobes and they come to Netherlands and they can vote. I'm sorry, there is an issue about the identity of Netherlands, yes. But what Mr. Wilders is doing is telling us, is removing the Dutch identity, is removing citizen of the world. Citizen of the world, it means equity between genders, which means LGBTQ rights. This is what defined the country. Human rights, what defined the country. The first is the basic thing. If we are removing that, okay, we could add, let's say, okay, if you come from, we don't care about what religion you come from, but if it preaches against this first thing, which is equity between genders, I'm sorry. You cannot get the right to vote. This is reasonable, huh? This is reasonable. But if you omit, then you are doing the same thing and you call it Islamophobia. You call it defending against Islam. Well, you are doing the same things, little by little. And all of this is happening when we have this MarsSaturn Square. Mars is war and Saturn is tradition. Medicine in Pisces and so on, but tradition, hierarchy. And when Mr. Wilders was elected, he said, I had to pinch myself to understand that this is true, because he went through a lot of attempts to block him, also for the way that he expressed against Islam. Okay? But you must understand that this is an annexation of Belgium that is being planned, and this is putting Dutch people, this Henk and Ingrid, in war, in the military, okay, occupying land, with all that it entails. It means the country where the International Court of Justice sits is going to be in war. There is no way to litigate it for war crimes. It's a very major deal. And I'm not blaming Mr. Wilders here. I'm just speaking up about the structural Saturn dissonance between military action, Mars, of supposed liberation. Okay, it's always liberation from something, yes. Then deportation of refugees, okay, and the desire to break, to no longer be a part of the union, which perhaps is a pragmatic, realistic, or realpolitik choice. When you see all the EU is falling apart, you must understand astrology is not what my friend thinks. Nobody will believe you even for free. Every chart is elected. Recently, I watched Gracia Tassio, and she's a Babylonian astrologer. And she says this too. Every chart is elected. You can see it both tropically, you can see it sidereally. You don't want to believe it, okay. But when you want to have to form an identity, you don't want to do electional astrology, okay. But other people will do it, and they will use it against you. Just be informed. You don't have to use it. You don't have to believe it. Just be informed that this thing exists, because some people use it. Maybe you don't believe in it, okay. But if you forbid people to practice astrology, you forbid the access of this information. And this information will still be used, but hidden, as was for many years. If you ask me what I predict to be the next Ukraine, Russia, Israel, or Turkey, Kurdistan, which is also ongoing. There's a genocide of Kurdi people at this moment. As we speak, deportation of refugees also in Pakistan. Afghani people are being genocided, okay? Because they don't want to go to Taliban state. So unfortunately, one of the most, if Mr. Wilders will be Prime Minister, which is actually very likely, contrary to even his belief, then there will be invasion, very likely to be invasion to Belgium, and that means we have another war, this time with Netherlands. And I also predicted what could be ranging from reorganization to complete rearrangement to complete dissolution of the UN. Okay, I'm not the only one who talked about this, and quite frankly, I don't remember what others said about this, but I literally saw it. Also received channelings to do with the structural problem of the International Court of Law being in The Hague and who will sue Netherlands for war crimes. I did not understand this so much because I connected this to the drug cartels. They're dealing with a lot of drug problems. I talked about the death of Peter R. de Vries, which now his son wrote a chapter to, I think, his book, and there's a movie coming out, so there's all that happening in the midst. But I did not imagine that Netherlands would go to war to annex part of Belgium. But fortunately, this is astrologically, and if we take what Mr. Wilders said in 2006, and now is the completion of it, acting out, then it's very likely to happen, it's very likely to be a reality. And there you cannot go to the UN, you cannot go to International Court of Justice. It's the dissolution of the UN. This is from the Agenda 2030 perspective and democide perspective, it's the poof, hit the spot, bang, there. You dissolve it from The Hague. The who versus The Hague. You take it from the inside and you dissolve it, because what will be left of Netherlands? It's no longer neutral, and already sold the farmers in all Europe can no longer grow crops. I'm actually thankful for Mark Bayerski, which I have fierce disagreement with, because I told him equating Jews to those families like the Rothschild or the Rockefellers or whoever that saying, oh, the Jews rule the world, is misleading, and Jews do not own 70% of the oil. Okay, Arabs do. And at the time where Jewish people were literally threatened for their life, it's like, what would be the equivalent of Tom, Dick, and Harry? Okay, I don't know. Your Osnat, Roy, and Yosef are not really getting any money from the Rothschild. I believe you understand this. I hope so. So even when you say, oh, there's very few people, when Jews are literally running for their life, I don't think I think you should be phrasing yourself more particularly, because the words do have impact, especially if you're an international player. But he was mentioning it for months and months and even years that Entire Europe, you cannot grow any crop. And he is vegan, okay? He is vegan. So we're not talking about the farts of cows on this, but he believes everybody should be vegan. Which I also don't know, because if I'm eating a tomato that's grown with fluoride and so on and toxins, and even if I try to grow it and don't have access to toxin-free water, then how do I know if I can be vegan or not? Because I don't have praxis experience in that. I can say, oh, maybe people like Gigi Young, they tried it, and then after a decade, they felt that they need to add very high-sourced fish. Okay, I don't have access to even try it. And so you understand, if a vegan healer tells you you cannot grow any crops, you cannot grow lettuce, you cannot grow tomato, you cannot grow cucumber, you cannot grow fruits in any land in Europe now, then you must understand this is not a hoax. And Netherlands is one of these countries, and this is prohibition. There are sanctions, there are things people can't broadcast. Everybody heard about the farmers demonstration in Netherlands. No, it's not the rich landowners. It is the people who grow our food. Okay? While we are good doing, where people are going, oh, I will make some money in high tech, I will make some money here, I will make some money there. They are growing food. And some of them rich, some of them good, some of them not good, but it's the people that grow our food telling us, guys, there's going to be a lack of food. In United States, they tried to warn us for decades. Netherlands will literally making this viral, and but unfortunately, the laws passed. Okay, so how can Netherlands do Nexit and go to war and grow no food? And there's no international court of law. So what you have is, poof, poof, a tower card. Okay, it's a tower moment for the entire world, not just Europe, the entire world. Because this is the UN. Was the Haag versus the WHO. Because everybody knows that the WHO will be class lawsuited in the Haag. Probably already is. And you ask what is behind this, and you ask me, Shirley, what do you predict to be a major crisis that's going to happen in this cycle? I'm telling you, the annexation, or the attempt to do annexation by Netherlands of Belgium, and the falling apart of the UN, and then the reinstation of a global one world government through democide and making all people fight each other. Because otherwise you would go and litigate the WHO in The Hague. And I talked about it in a couple of episodes, and I said the WHO versus The Hague, the WHO versus The Hague, the WHO versus The Hague, okay? And this is what is being done to The Hague, and this is why Mr. Filters managed to be elected. And he said, I had to pinch myself, okay? Of course, because he wanted to annex a part of Belgium. In the country where everybody's literally pacifistic. Like, this is, yes, my father, he served in NATO. Now, hopefully you're not, hopefully retired enough to not be recruited to any war. But you must understand, okay, it's a very worldly country, and yes, I'm not saying not racist. Yes, there's a lot of racism, unfortunately. But also, where can you be a trans person? Very likely in Netherlands. Where can you be neurodivergent person? In Netherlands, you would get acknowledged way more. There is the problem of an open dialogue, even also originated in Finland and in Netherlands. Unfortunately, not really practiced, yes, but and no drug treatment to what people call psychosis, and I call non-volitional, non-dual experiences. Okay, one of the most advanced countries in acknowledging the lethality of mental conditions and the ability to have death with dignity due to mental condition, with horrid process that would probably make people try alone anyway. But the thing is that and you say, of course, one of the most desired passports, I care them half Israeli, half Dutch. Israeli was one of the most desired passports in the Middle East. And there are some fascinating countries in the Middle East, okay? Jordan is fascinating. Egypt is fascinating. It's difficult to travel, is true. And many more and I'm saying, of course, Syria is fascinating, Lebanon is fascinating, Iran, Iraq, absolutely, and probably in Afghanistan as well. Yes, but the regimes, Afghanistan, you cannot go anywhere. So, but it isn't like Israel is the only country in the Middle East that is advanced. No, not at all. But the thing is, I had one of the best Israeli passports in the Middle East, and I have one of the best, if not the best, passports in the Netherlands, in the EU, by descent, both. And now, yes, Israeli passport's very difficult, and the Netherlands passport, I don't know, is problem. It's problem. But it's also something that is to touch with the Saturn Pisces, which is, you had this passport and you had that passport, and now it's changing. Yes, because eventually to be citizen of the world would mean that eventually all people do need to have these privileges. All people need to be free. Yes, but they also have to respect human rights. It cannot be that people rape women, that you cannot be a gay anywhere, that you cannot be a trans anywhere. And yes, the freedom has to be to everyone. Yes, so very big problems ahead, unfortunately. And in this crisis situation between Mars, military operation, annexation, change, action, okay, and Saturn, tradition, keeping things on hold, but also having tremendous tower moments, okay, because Saturn is the lord of karma. So also having tremendous tower moments. If I'm not mistaken, this is also a Saturn transit, I don't know, Saturn return for the UN. Okay, I don't predict the UN to survive this Saturn transit. With what I have seen now, I could be completely wrong. Victor said with the birthing of Mars, war is ending, but yes, any one of us could be wrong. I would rather be wrong and have people have human rights and ability to travel, and yes, and dignity, regardless of the nationality, which is a part of what being Dutch is, okay, than to have be right. So this is one of the cases where I hope to be proven wrong, but I don't like where this is going. And again, it is not Mr. Wilders, it's not the local issues, that I understand how this plays in the grand scheme. Just how for Bibi Netanyahu was like, he was elected, he was a prime minister for like a millennia, and then there was corruption. He's not the first person to be corrupted, not the last. Even Yitzhak Rabin, he resigned, fired himself. Yes, he resigned because his wife had a bank account in Switzerland when it was not allowed. Okay, so he had a dignity to resign, but none of them. There was Ulmert, and then there's Bibi. The Katzab is raping someone, which Yes, probably not the only one that did that, but he was litigated. Some say whatever. Um, and so this plays very well into the hands of, hey, people really want Bibi to go. Let's have a war here. Now it looks like Israel is doing both betrayal in its people and genocide and so on and so forth. No, it's very comfortable to save this situation, to bring order. And what we see here with the refugees is very interesting because there is also the interference of Soros, which I did another episode about, and he says, the problem is to have all the refugees have a place, and the challenge is the borders of countries, but that mixed with democide is not exactly improving upon the situation of refugees. Yes, I don't think the people who worked in the fields in Israel are feeling great about having been kidnapped for 40 something days. Those that are alive, okay. So, heavyweight episode, but much needed. Like it was a Mars night Venus hour when I began this. With Venus in the 18 degree Libra, so 18 is also can be discussion about poisoning or medical warfare, yes, drugs and so on. Is the degree of Virgo according to Nicola Stoyanovich. The nodes right now are on the 22nd degree of Aries and Libra, and they have been on the 22nd degree when Mr. Geert Wilders was elected. And again, this is not about him, it is about what it means in the kind of chess game of the political arena. And the chess game and the chessboard or the checkers board is actually a symbol of secret societies, whichever they are named, yes, but it's a symbol that we see is this discussion about the chess or the checkerboard and this, and also the word the Trojan horse. So I don't know who is who and how it got there. Trojan horse is an Aries thing, and he in 2006 already called Islam Trojan horse. So this is a very interesting thing to note here, because Aries in Aries represents a Trojan horse, and the eclipse that we recently had in Aries was on Aries, right on the degree. And now the 22nd degree here of the nodes, and Venus to be conjunct in it, which is, I think, malefic for the International Court of Justice already. Yes, the International Court of Justice, the UN. Unfortunately, women judges, things to do with Libra, unfortunately not good. But yes, I will upload this episode right now so that you can have the access to watch it and see in the next episode, hopefully with better news. But this is, we'll do a little bit of update here. Yes, we're still perfecting, okay. Saturn is on the 52 minutes, Mars is on the 14th. So we're still perfecting here. So there's more that we will hear of about this transit on a mundane level, on a personal level. I suggest to you, please, you can study astrology, watch videos about this in synastry and composite and mundane astrology. Put your mind to good use. Don't do like me, don't argue with people more than you need to. And if you do, then be mature. Do what Saturn requires you, is to take this Mars into maturity, and not like the fierce leashing out conflict that Mars in Sagittarius, Mars in general can be, Mars in Sagittarius can be. So, thank you for watching.